Welcome back to Fox Explainer. Today I am going to show you a romance, adventure, movie from 2018 called Adrift. Spoilers ahead. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Watch out and take care. On a boat that is about to capsize into the water, Tommy Oldham awakens. She sets out right away to find Richard, her fiancé, but when she finds him, he has vanished. She breaks down in tears. Tommy had recently arrived in a port on a French island 5 months prior, prepared to enter the nation. She doesn't know exactly what she wants to do either, so when the guard asks her the usual questions, she gives very vague answers. While cleaning a boat at work, she meets a woman by the name of Deb. Soon after, Richard joins her in his boat, and as they get to know one another, they assist him in rigging up the boat. The next day, Tommy follows Richard and finds him working on his own boat while bringing him ice. She agrees to his invitation to share a vegetarian meal if he makes the invitation. Later that evening, Richard explains to her that he travels alone and how this solitude has many drawbacks. Richard surmises that she is also a sailor as they converse. Tommy contests that, but the next day he intends to let her pilot the boat. They have fun together as she demonstrates her sailing talent despite her lack of experience. Tommy takes him to a waterfall as they continue their explorations together. She jumps into the water, but Richard dives in to save her after losing sight of her. He does this to make sure she is okay. When he finds her, he realizes it was just a harmless joke. A kiss begins to develop between the two as they are sitting on the sand at the beach. Returning to the present, Tommy tries in vain to broadcast the Mayday on the radio. She experiences a brief period of despair before realizing that the boat is lacking a lifeboat and immediately embarks on a mission to find it. The sails have fallen into the water, so the boat won't start. As she does so, she stumbles and ends up in the water. She climbs back up and reaches the boat that is drifting away after almost choking on the ladder. She finds a number of tools, including a pump and the boat's jib, and she tapes over the holes. She successfully removes some water using the pump, and after doing so, she struggles to unfold the sails. The lifeboat is then finally visible to her through the binoculars. In order to reach Richard, who is thankfully still alive, she takes down the sails, uses a rope to cling to the boat, and gets to him. Reassuring him that everything will be fine, she gets him back on board. Before the accident, let's go back in time. The flower Richard displays to her is the flower of love, and wearing one on the left ear signifies a romantic commitment, according to custom. She talks to him about her childhood and how her mother's absence affected her experiences, inspiring her to travel the world as an adult over dinner. Tommy persuades him to dance with her after that. The man asks her to join him as they dance, and she naturally agrees to go on a world tour with him. While getting groceries, they plan their next trip, but as they leave the store, they run into a couple. They are some of Richard's friends, and they came up with an exciting idea. Once they are seated at a bar, they offer to take their boat back to California for $10,000 and a first-class plane ticket. The offer is hard to refuse, but Richard says he will only take it if he gets 2 tickets so he can bring Tommy with him. Soon after, he runs into Tommy, who, feeling a little nervous, says she doesn't want to just go along with him on his adventures. Also, she doesn't want to go back to the place she hasn't been to in years. Richard realizes that he may be being selfish, so he decides to turn down the offer. After sailing so far to find her, he doesn't want to lose her now. We get back on the day of the accident. Richard is not in good shape at all, and Tommy covers up his injuries. Tommy does some math and figures out that they have gone too far away and are now heading north. Once she realizes how far away they are, she loses hope and thinks they will die, so Richard tries to cheer her up. But the man has a feeling that they don't have to go back to the land to touch it. When they look at the map, they decide that if they want to be saved, they need to get to Hawaii. The real problem, though, is that it will be very dangerous, because if they miss the target, the next closest place to go would be too far away. But they decide to try anyway. Back in the good old days, the couple is on a luxury boat with another couple. After talking with them, they talk about their future. Tommy decided to go with him anyway, which was a good thing. Richard told her that the money they would get would give them enough money to travel for a whole year. Tommy writes her mother a letter to tell her that she will be coming home soon. As they travel, they see a certain red sunset, and they joke about what color it is. This information will be important later, but they don't know that yet. Back to the tragedy that is still going on, they can find some food and water on the boat, but it won't be enough for the whole trip. 5 days into the drift, they realize they've gone a little off course, So Tommy decides to fix the rudder, which she thinks is the problem. She puts on a diving mask, jumps into the water, and sees that a piece of the sail is stuck. After a few tries, she finally gets it off by using the strength in her hands and legs. 5 days later, he finds a face cream and puts it on both of them. Then he checks Richard's wounds. We don't have much food left. They have to fish for food or they might die of hunger. Tommy, on the other hand, won't eat it because she is a vegetarian and it would go against her beliefs to do so. Richard tells her that this is not the time for a temper tantrum, but she has to do it for their survival. She gathers up her courage and jumps into the water, but her first try doesn't work, so she comes back up. She tries again, but the same thing happens, so she gets back in the boat while crying. Soon after, Tommy sits on the boat and meditates. It starts to rain, and she is so happy she can't stand it. After 18 days of drifting, she finds wine while looking for things around the boat. They celebrate and drink to feel human again, if only for a moment. After a few days, Richard tells Tommy that he wishes he had never met her while she is playing the guitar and singing. He wouldn't have put her in this situation if he had done that. On the other hand, Tommy doesn't regret it. She'll keep these memories with her. Richard plays the same instrument in the evening, and Tommy asks him if he wants to talk to her about how quickly his mother died. He says that he agrees and that he has taken this trauma to heart, thinking about how his mother would judge him if she saw him in certain situations. The fiancé then asks his mother what she thinks about everything. In response, he asks her to marry him. She is happy to accept and wear a handmade ring from that time. Richard says he will buy a real one when they get to the US. 29 days into the drift, Tommy has a dream in which a huge ship passes right next to them and doesn't stop. She realizes she is crazy, and both of them feel bad about themselves. For Richard, the only good thing is that they are not dead yet, even though they are thirsty and far away. A few days later, when Tommy was helping him drink, she told him there were about 690 miles left. Let's think back to the first day. At some point, they hear on the radio that the center of a storm is 1,000 miles away. As a precaution, they decide to change their plans and move away from the storm. A few hours later, they are in the middle of it, and they do everything they can to save themselves. In the present, Tommy sees that the sky looks the same as it did at the beginning of the journey, and she has a feeling that something is coming. Luckily, it was just a snowstorm. Tommy tells him that when she was young and her relatives were fighting, she would lock herself in the bathtub and pretend she was somewhere else. She wants to do the same thing now. As the ocean tossed them around, Tommy grabbed the emergency locator transmitter so they could send their location. They keep doing everything they can to stay alive, and Richard tells her to go down because they might tip over. She doesn't want to leave him on his own, but she goes down anyway. Once she gets there, the waves throw her to the opposite side of the bottom floor. Richard, on the other hand, loses consciousness and falls to the ocean floor. After the flashback is over, Tommy wakes up and sees the harsh reality of the situation. Richard was never with her after the accident. She was just having hallucinations, which is common for people traveling alone. She actually went through all the tragedy without Richard, but this false belief gave her strength. She dives down into the water to look for fish. This time, she hits the target on her first try and gets back up. Even though eating it goes against her beliefs, she does it anyway. Suddenly, a little bird catches up with her, and she doesn't know why it's there. She uses binoculars, and the miracle seems to happen. In the distance, she sees dry land. She doesn't waste any time and uses a pyrotechnic gun to attract a ship that comes to her rescue right away. Later, she goes back to the boat, and seeing pictures of Richard brings back all the good times they had together. She starts to cry, and then she looks around. She even looks for and finds the flower he gave her. She goes to the beach where they first kissed and puts the flower in the water as a memorial to her boyfriend, who has died. After that, Tommy never stopped going to sea. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more and hit the like button to help me out, and also leave a comment if you want me to explain your favorite film. Until next time, take care.